ProPhets.radio.com. That's ProPhets. That program is now a weekly internet podcast that ends up being bi-weekly. So it used to be bi-weekly, and when we cancel one, you get one a month. And now it's weekly, so that when we cancel one, you get one every other week or so. So it's this big kind of deceptive marketing campaign. But we're weekly. We just didn't have one yesterday. We're trying. And we're hoping to get Jeff to come out on a Saturday when he has time to kind of return to the olden days of nonprofits.
It hasn't been that long since I did a nonprofits. I did one during the hiatus.
Yes. I'm just encouraging you to swing back over some Saturday when you don't have nothing better to do. But after the show's over, we get together for dinner. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to come to any of our events. You don't have to be a member to attend. Currently, we're going to El Arroyo. I'm sure that they'll put the address up there on the screen here in just a second. There's one other announcement about an upcoming event. You can find, by the way, if you go to atheist-community.org, that's the website for the ACA, there's a calendar, frequently asked questions page. You can find information about our blood drive, happy hours on Thursdays, any of the other events. But there's a special event coming up that a lot of people are participating in. And you can go to savetxschools.org for more information. On March 14th, there's a rally at the Capitol regarding the state of public education in Texas and the funding and the school books and all the information's there. I've been kind of partially out of the loop, but we're planning on going down and participating as well. But if it's your sort of thing, and as I would think it's many of our viewers sort of thing, I want to make sure we get the information out. That's all.
I want to add one thing about the
atheist and Jeff has one thing.
I want to add one thing about the atheist-community.org site.
Yeah.
You can find out who's going to be on what day. Our schedule is there. I've lost track of the number of times people have accosted me on Facebook to ask me when I'd be on next. And honestly, I don't keep very good track, as some of you may have noticed. But you can find out the exact same way I do, which is by going and looking at the freaking schedule.
That schedule, though, is at atheist-experience.com.
Okay, but you can link to Atheist
Yes.
Experience from Atheist Community.
The grand irony, of course, is that it's Jeff's forgetting that he was on one day is the whole reason I was on the show in the first place. So I happen to be here
it's
helping
an opportunity. It's not a mistake. It's an opportunity.
Yeah, we're doing whatever we can to help people. We're going to go ahead and jump into callers and see if the phone lines are working and what all we can get done on calls today. And I'll get some more information out as the show goes on. So we've got Damon in Glasgow.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Damon.
Not too bad. How are you guys?
Good. I'm taking you can hear us well.
I can. Yes. Can you hear me all right?
Great. Yeah, you sound good.
Okay. Oh, Happy New Year, by the way. To all of my, I know it's quite late into the New Year, but Happy New Year to all.
Oh, I thought you were going with like the Chinese.
Nuptials, as you said.
Yes, thanks.
I was just wanted to ask. I actually called a few months ago. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, I might remember.
I'm from Greece originally. I was just talking about how crazy the situation is over there. Doesn't matter anyway.
I couldn't hear what you said.
No, I'm originally from Greece. I'm in the UK now. I'm originally.
Yeah, and you were talking about the education system in Greece. That's right.
That's the one, yes. And I remembered you, just a little segue, because you mentioned about the education system in Texas and the situation there. This is a question I've got also pertaining to education. I work for the courts here in Glasgow. I actually studied law. And I've noticed that, especially with the people I deal with, because I also handle those cases for Greek-speaking defendants, quite a bit as a translator. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that there's a great amount of people who, depending on how religious or non-religious they are, is kind of not exactly directly proportionate, but does seem to play a rather large part in how easy they are to commit a crime and how easy they are to reoffend, and their lack of rehabilitation in the prison system, from what I've noticed. And I was talking about this with some colleagues of mine and some practicing lawyers, sort of friends of mine who've been in the business for quite some time, fellow atheists themselves. They seem to think that a great deal of how many people will reoffend has got to do with whether or not they hold any religious belief of forgiveness from a higher power. So if they honestly believe that no matter what crime they commit in this life, as long as they ask for forgiveness from Jesus Christ, apparently, because we're a Christian if they honestly believe that they can be forgiven by their higher power, and they really, in a sense, they lack any real appreciation of what they do in this life. So I was wanting your guys' opinion on that, because I thought to myself that that would actually be a very interesting thesis proposal for a PhD perhaps to do, to take maybe statistics. Of course, I know statistics aren't always very accurate, and a lot of it's got to do with socioeconomic situations of people. But from what I've read, from what I've researched a little bit here in the EU, I've noticed that a lot of countries that are they're very secular, mostly atheistic, or are very non-theistic, like the Scandinavian countries, Holland and Germany, they've got a much lower crime rate percentage compared to countries like the United States or the United Kingdom that have a greater deal of religious people than what they do. And I'm just wondering what your guys' opinion on that is.
Sure. Jeff?
Yeah,
You got
I just as you were talking, the thing that struck me is I'd be wondering whether these theistic multiple offenders who believe that that they can get their forgiveness directly from their God, I wonder if they're more resentful of the legal system and of the state incarcerating them for their crimes than other criminals, on account of they believe they've already been let off the hook by their God. I'm just curious what their attitude would be.
And I think that, while it's definitely an interesting subject, I mean, we've seen other kind of statistical analysis of the prison population compared to religions. I think the biggest problem you're going to have is you're never going to be able to do more than demonstrate a correlation. I mean, you can't. It's going to be really difficult to try and say that the reasons for their recidivism is directly tied to your proposition that a religion that offers forgiveness may impact an individual's, or may significantly impact an individual's understanding of personal responsibility. I don't know that you can get to a sort of causal conclusion at all, but I think the correlation is probably strong enough, especially when you have religious people who would be shocked by those numbers. That if they're advocating a position that their religion necessarily makes someone more moral, etc., then showing that in fact there's a negative correlation between religiosity and how likely someone is to properly pay for their crime, serve their time, and then never re-engage in that activity again. I think that would surprise a lot of people. It's an interesting thesis that I'd certainly like to see the research done, and I think there's a lot of potential strong arguments, no matter what the results are. It's certainly interesting information, because it may turn out to be the case that amongst specific religions, the rate of recidivism is in fact lower, and that would be an interesting starting point to go and figure out exactly why. Is there any way to tie this to, for example, the potential truth of the supernatural aspect of their claims, or is there something else about the sociological aspects of that religion and that culture that encourages, I guess, a proper repentance or a proper rehabilitation when that happens? So I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting question to pursue.
Because the other thing, I didn't study personally, I haven't studied much science myself, but from what I did read on the evolution of the human species, I saw that obviously what must have happened is that the first humans grouped together and saw how beneficial it was for them to, against other predators, to be in a close-knit society, and and effectively all humans today, or the majority of humans today, were actually descended from those first groups of people who realized the benefits of being nicer and more cooperative as a society. So at the same time, I'd like also to perhaps make this whole notion of altruism is not in any way given by a higher power, as a lot of people will say, well, where your morality comes from, obviously, if you feel doing something bad. So if you feel that you hurt someone or you killed someone, and if you feel bad about it, where does that guilt come from? I'd like to, from what I've read, it seems to me that it's not just how you were raised, but also an intrinsic knowledge of intrinsic understanding of doing harm. because it's obviously an evolutionary trait, I feel. So
Well, yeah.
from that point of view, I'd like to knock down this whole argument. And so obviously, if you feel bad about having hurt someone, then that's God speaking to you rather than your conscience or rather than your own biological imperative.
Right.
Harming others is detrimental to you, detrimental to the society around you.
Right. There's been quite a bit of research done in this area, and while I can't come up with the names off the top of my head, I've looked into a couple of books on this, and I don't find it surprising at all that, or to me, it's a simple answer, as you've kind of touched on, that understanding the benefits of a cooperative society, understanding that you don't live in a bubble where your actions don't affect anybody. All of our actions interact, and the fact is that we've developed essentially empathy and the ability to understand how our actions are going to affect other people based on how they may affect us. I can put myself in the position of someone who has lost a child, for instance, even though I haven't. Now, do I understand it fully? No. I don't probably grasp it at the level that they are currently engaged in it. But I can at least come up with kind of a hypothetical that allows me to be empathetic and sympathetic towards their situation. I think that while it'd be nice to see even more research in this area, I think at this point it's clear that the burden of proof for people and